Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Everybody! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let's see something dancing. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Shri Harinam Sankirtanya Ke, Srila Prabhupada Ke, ISKCON Manchester Sangha Ke, ISKCON Newcastle Yatra Ke, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna. So, of course, it's a little unusual giving class when the only person you can see is yourself. I can see all of you guys in the top, but the main picture on the screen is me, and it's not a pretty picture. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You're the goods, and I'm the bad and the ugly. Anyway, thank you very much again, Gurunath Rajpuru, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Generally, we're speaking in front of a live audience, and we like to interact with the crowds. But anyway, we can see that you're watching. I can see Anthony's on there. We've got, who else? We've got Sarah Owen, MP Easy. I'm not sure who MP Easy is. Madhu's tuned in. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in. So we're going to be reading tonight from the Nectar of Devotion, and we're going to open it up a little bit later because we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to hear your reflections and your realizations also. But tonight we're going to be reading, actually first we should say tonight's class is entitled No Time or No Taste. No Time or No Taste. So we're going to be reading from, this is chapter 18 of the Nectar of Devotion. And this is Character of One in Ecstatic Love. Actually, firstly, I should just ask, can everyone hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, great. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this is the Nectar of Devotion, the complete science of Bhakti Yoga, chapter 18, Character of One in Ecstatic Love. Rupa Goswami next describes the characteristics of a person who has actually developed his ecstatic love for Krishna. The characteristics are as follows. 1. He is always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always, 24 hours a day without deviation. 2. He is always reserved and perseverant. 3. He is always detached from all material attraction. 4. He does not long for any material respect in return for his activities. 5. He is always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon him. 6. He is always very eager to serve the Lord faithfully. 7. He is very much attached to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 8. He is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And 9. He is very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed, e.g. Mathura, Vrindavan, or Dwarka, Manchester. Right, now we're going to read. Prabhupada gives a little purport on each of these 9 different characteristics of one who has ecstatic love. We're going to be focusing on the first one, utilization of time. So, Srila Prabhupada says, an unalloyed devotee who has developed ecstatic love for Krishna is always engaging his words in reciting prayers to the Lord. Within the mind, he is always thinking of Krishna, and with his body, he either offers obeisances by bowing down before the deity or engages in some other service. During these ecstatic activities, he sometimes sheds tears. In this way, his whole life is engaged in the service of the Lord, with not a moment wasted on any other engagement. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Caitanya Manobishtam Sthapitamya Bhutale Swayam Rupakadame Amdadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Now everyone, hands in the air. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Don't forget, I can see you. Okay, so now Srila Prabhupada here, well, Rupa Goswami actually, he has stated that there are 9 symptoms of one, or 9 characteristics of one who has ecstatic love for Krishna. So these characteristics, they are tangible and they are perceivable and they're visible. Just like in the, okay, I was going to say the Bhagavad Gita, I don't have one handy, but I do have Vedabase on my phone. This is called Yukta Vairagya. We utilize everything in Krishna's service. So on our mobile phones, we should be having the Vedabase. So here we go. Chapter 9, text 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, here we go. Yes, so he says, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitram idam uttamam, Pratyaksha Vagamam Dhamyam, Susukam Katam Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. We're concerned here with this word pratyaksha, by direct experience. So Srila Prabhupada said, it gives direct perception of the self by realization. So in other words, everything in Krishna consciousness is directly perceived, it's tangible. So when we talk about these 9 characteristics of one who has ecstatic love, that means that they are perceivable. And that means that we can perceive them in ourselves. We can perceive that we're developing love for Krishna. And it means we can perceive them in others. I can perceive them in another devotee by observing their characteristics. Yes, this person, for instance, is, very much attached to chanting the holy names. Or this person is always reserved and perseverant. This person is always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So these characteristics, they are tangible. And we can also, by that same method, we can also perceive how much we are advancing, according to how much we are developing these symptoms. So the point is, in Krishna consciousness, that nothing is vague, nothing is obscure. Nothing is airy-fairy, as they say. Because as Srila Prabhupada translates the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, he said it is the science of Bhakti Yoga. It's a science, it's exact, it's precise, it's explicit. We also have, this book, one of Srila Prabhupada's most famous books, The Science of Self-Realization. It's a science, it's not something vague. Like sometimes people may say, oh, I love God, or I love Krishna. But the point is that should be manifest in our activities, just like we say, my wife is sitting over here, and if I tell my wife I love her, I love you, and she says, that's all very well, Caitanya, but I want you to take the bins out, or I want you to wash the pots. I need you to go and do some shopping, go and mow the grass. In other words, they say that love is, it's a doing word. Love is a verb. Love isn't just something we say. It's not about paying lip service. Our love is manifest through our activities. So devotional service is very scientific. And interestingly, if you look at the definition of science in the dictionary, we don't need to look, I've already looked it up. Here's one I made earlier, they used to say on Blue Peter. The definition of science is knowledge which is gained through observation and experimentation. Knowledge gained through observation and experimentation. So therefore, if devotional service is a science, it's a science of Bhakti Yoga. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada says in the Nectar of Devotion, he said that this book here, Nectar of Devotion, should be the law book for all devotees. And Srila Prabhupada also said that if one studies this devotional, this Nectar of Devotion very carefully, one will be firmly fixed in devotional service. So the point is that we should also be able to gain knowledge through this observation and experimentation. So in Krishna consciousness, we make an experiment. What is that experiment? The experiment is that we try and follow the rules and the regulations. We try to chant at least 16 rounds a day of the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We offer some food to the deities or a picture of Krishna. The very first thing I ever offered to Krishna when I was a student at Liverpool University, not too far from all of you in the Manchester region. I was living in a house of students. It was myself and 6 other students. And if any of you have been studying, you know what a student house is like. It's not, it's not the nicest thing. I used to have to spend 45 minutes cleaning the kitchen before I could even start to cook. Because in Krishna consciousness, we understand cleanliness is next to godliness. Everything should be paka, should be very clean, suchina. Anyway, the first thing I offered to Krishna was I offered a jacket potato. I've told this story before, but I remember it very clearly. I just had a plate and I put on it a jacket potato, and then I put it in the microwave for 7 to 10 minutes, and then that potato had cooked. Then I put a little bit of salad, a few lettuce leaves and cucumbers and tomato, and then I put it in front of a picture of Krishna. There was this nice picture of Krishna in the Higher Taste book, and in the Higher Taste book, it said that we can offer our food to Krishna. We just simply place it in front of Krishna, and we say, "My dear Lord Krishna, please accept this simple offering." And then you chant the mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I did that, and I tell you what, by George, that was a transcendental potato. That was not a potato of the material world. And amazingly, I just offered it to Krishna on that same plate that I was then going to eat from. Those of us who are a little bit more, how should we say, sophisticated in our offerings to Krishna, we know that you should actually have a separate plate for Krishna. And there are other prayers that we recite, not only Hare Krishna, but in the beginning, the main thing is that Krishna, he's looking for our mood. There's one name for Krishna, which is Bhava Grahi Janardana, which means that Krishna accepts the mood of one's devotion. Not so much the activity itself, but the mood in which something's done. So at that particular time, that was the best I could offer to Krishna. A little jacket potato, done in the microwave, but that was the best I could offer at that particular point. Of course, we're supposed to progress. But the point is, we were following the rules and regulations of devotional service. We chant Hare Krishna, we offer our food to Krishna, we read from the Shastra, like, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, we associate with the devotees. This is the experiment that we make. And when we make an experiment, then we gain knowledge through observation. So in Krishna consciousness, we can also observe how we're making progress, right? Do we not notice? The first thing that we understand, the first thing that we observe is that we understand that I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And we also understand that all other living entities are not the body, they're the soul too. I remember when I was young, I used to when I was walking along the pavement, I used to kick dandelions. I used to like football when I was younger, so I'd kick dandelions, I'd try and get them over the fence, like I was playing football. I'd kick a dandelion, and I'd go when I were a lad. So, but as soon as I started chanting Hare Krishna and I understood that I wasn't the body, I was the soul. And not only was I the soul, I was part and parcel of Krishna. Jivares rupa hui Krishna nityadas. But I also understood that every other living entity is also part and parcel of Krishna. So therefore I stopped immediately kicking dandelions, because I thought, no, that's a you know, a spirit soul, and it's a pure devotee of Krishna. So that was immediate. That was the immediate knowledge which I gained. So science, knowledge gained through observation and experimentation. And spiritual truths are revealed from within. Like sometimes, you know, I say to people when I'm speaking to someone about Krishna consciousness, I say, don't take my word for it. That's my experience. You know, like we said, pratyaksha, direct perception. I've directly perceived it, but you try it for yourself. We have to make an experiment in Krishna consciousness. We shouldn't accept anything blindly. You know, there's following anything blindly is dangerous, actually. Never accept anything blindly. But sometimes people say to me, they say, I don't believe in what you believe in. And I say, well, with all due respect, what do I believe in? And they say, I don't know, but I don't believe in that. And they'll say, I'm a scientist. I don't believe in what you believe in. And I say, with all due respect, that doesn't sound very scientific. When I was at school, I understood that science meant you have a hypothesis. For instance, hydrogen plus oxygen equals water. And when I was at school, we used to have to write up our science experiments, and at the top you'd write hypothesis. Then you would have, like, you know, the apparatus or whatever, you know, what do you need for the experiment? Then you would have method. And then after you'd have method, then you'd have like application, then you'd have conclusion. So in other words, by following an experiment, we get a particular result. So Krishna consciousness, we shouldn't accept anything blindly. We have to make an experiment for ourselves. Okay, I'm going to try chanting Hare Krishna. I'm going to try offering my food to Krishna. Just like myself, when I offered that jacket potato to Krishna, I made an experiment, and you know, and from that day forward, I understood that, you know, when you offer food to Krishna, Krishna accepts it if it's done with love and devotion. Like I said, that wasn't an ordinary potato; it was a transcendental potato. But the point is, with science, it has to be followed exactly. Do we have any scientists? I know we have some doctors. Yeah. So that means that, you know, just like, for instance, if I go to the doctor, like Guru Nataraj Prabhu, and I say, oh, I'm suffering from this malady, this problem, he will ask for the symptoms, and then he will give me some prescription. Okay, take these pills 3 times a day, get plenty of exercise, avoid this type of food, and drink plenty of water. But then if I go back to him, you know, a week later, and I say, I'm still sick, and he says, well, have you been following the prescription? And I say, no, you know, I just thought I would just do whatever I felt like. Because that's often a thing in when it comes to religion. People say, well, whatever makes you happy. Have you heard that one before? Well, whatever makes you feel good. But it's not about that. It's a science, which means we have to follow it exactly, precisely. Like we said, Krishna consciousness isn't something vague. Not just like we say, oh, I love Krishna. Many people say they love Krishna, but then that will be visible in one's symptoms. And even then, sometimes people try and imitate the symptoms of pure devotion. Like Srila Prabhupada describes it, there are, you know, one of the 8 symptoms of one who has prema, pure love for Krishna, is that they will roll around the floor in ecstasy. So sometimes in the early days, particularly, you know, in Prabhupada's, you know, home country of India, when people were a little bit familiar with that, they would come in front of the deities and they would cry, oh, Krishna, Krishna, you know, making out that they would have love for Krishna. And then sometimes in the kirtan, these people, they would roll on the floor in front of the deities crying. So the devotees, they approached Srila Prabhupada and they said, Srila Prabhupada, sometimes, you know, these people, they're coming, they're rolling on the floor in front of Krishna, crying. Apparently, what should we do? And do you know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said, you kick them. You kick them very firmly. And he said, if they don't protest, then that means they are, you know, in ecstasy. They have pure love for Krishna. But if they protest, hey, why are you kicking me? He said, then you know they are just pretenders. We don't recommend you necessarily do that in the temple in Manchester. Someone comes and starts showing some, you know, but that's what Prabhupada said, because the point is that it's scientific. If one actually has love for Krishna, one will manifest certain symptoms. 9 characteristics. We'll read them again. 1 is always anxious to utilize one's time. In other words, they don't waste time. 2, always reserved and perseverant. 3, detached from all material attraction. 4, not longing for any respect for oneself. 5, always certain that Krishna will bestow his mercy upon them. 6, always eager to serve the Lord faithfully. 7, very much attached to chanting the holy names of the Lord. 8, always eager to describe the transcendental qualities of the Lord. And 9, very pleased to live in a place where the Lord's pastimes are performed. So, like we said, you can perceive these symptoms in others, but you can also perceive them in yourself. Or maybe you can perceive a lack of, in my case, a lack of these 9 characteristics. So it's like a barometer. Just like when we go outside, like I can look on my watch now and it tells me that outside it is 12 degrees. There is a thermometer and a barometer built into this watch here. So in Krishna consciousness, when we read these characteristics, it's like a barometer. We can judge where we're at in devotional service. Am I making any advancement? Sometimes, I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm going backwards in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes I feel like, yeah, I was quite, I was quite a nice person when I joined the Hare Krishna movement. And after some time, I start realizing, or I thought I was a nice person, but after some years, you start realizing, oh, actually, I'm full of lust, anger, greed, and, so many bad qualities. That's called self-realization, but it's good because we start to see others, in a good light. We realize that in my own heart, I have no love for Krishna. But look at, back to Anthony there in Manchester, listening so nicely. He's so much love for Krishna. Or Gaura Nataraj, or Sarah, look at that, Sarah's tuning in. So we start to see these symptoms in others. Yes, but actually that's an important point as well, that when we're talking about trying to perceive these characteristics in others or in ourselves, not that we should be looking at others and saying they don't have any symptoms of love of God. That person's not attached to chanting the holy names. That person's not persevering and reserved. The point is we should, like they say, when you point one finger at someone else, I'll have my fingers on the screen, and 3 fingers pointing at you. My spiritual master, he said that we should be strict with ourselves and lenient with others. Strict with ourselves and lenient with others, because it's easy to find faults. In Kali Yuga, it is said that it is an ocean of faults. Kaler dosha, Nadaya Rajan, Astyeko Mahankana, Caitanya Eva Krishnasya, Mukta Sangha Param Reject. It's a beautiful verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says, O king, this Kali Yuga is an ocean of inauspicious qualities. But there is one good quality in this age, and that is simply by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One can easily overcome, or one can cross over this ocean of nescience and go back home, back to Godhead. So we should be careful in fault finding in the association of devotees. It's easily done. But we shouldn't think we're special because we can see faults. Anyone can see faults, but it's hard to see faults in ourselves. It's easy to see faults in others. But when we see faults in devotees, Prabhupada said they are like spots on the moon, just like if we look up at the full moon in the night sky. You see like pock marks on the moon, like they call it the man in the moon, right? This little, you know. But if you criticize the moon because it has a few pock marks, no, the moon is shining so brightly. So in the association of devotees also, sometimes we may see some apparent faults, but these are nothing in comparison to the effulgence of pure love of God that they're radiating. So yes, we should look for these symptoms in others, try and see the good in others, and try and see the bad in ourselves. But not in a self-indulgent way, not like poor me, like, oh, because sometimes we can become despondent in Krishna consciousness. We can think, I don't have any taste for the holy name. I don't, like associating with devotees. Don't like reading. And then we just feel sorry for ourselves and we just think, what's the point? We give up and we swing the bead bag in the corner of the room. Good riddance. We throw away the nectar of devotion. No, the point is that we should utilize that as a catalyst. Oh, I've got no taste for the holy name. Let me chant more attentively. Let me chant with more enthusiasm. I have no taste for associating with devotees. Let me go out of my way to serve them even more to get a taste. Now today, the reason we've fixed upon this first one about time, firstly, let's analyze it a little bit. Srila Prabhupada says, he is always anxious to utilize his time in the devotional service of the Lord. He does not like to be idle. He wants service always, 24 hours a day without deviation. So why does a devotee not want to waste time? Well, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Kalo Sme. Krishna says, I am time, time I am. So in other words, time is a representation of Krishna. Just like when we come before the deities, we're respectful, aren't we? When the deity curtain opens, Govinda Nadi Purusha Dhammaham Bhajami. We come forward, we offer our obeisances, we fall prostrate in front of the deities. We're respectful. We're respectful when the sannyasi or the spiritual master comes in. Why? Because they're the representation of Krishna, just like the Archa Vigraha. In fact, they're non-different from Krishna. So similarly, time is a representation of Krishna, Kalo Sme. So therefore, a devotee is respectful of time. They don't waste time. Just like when I joined the temple and I was cleaning my teeth in the bathroom and I had the tap running, a devotee came in and said, Prabhu, don't leave the tap running while you're brushing your teeth because you are wasting Krishna's energy. You're wasting water. So they taught me that you turn the tap on, you put toothpaste on your brush, put it under the water, then you turn the tap off and you brush your teeth, and then you put the tap on at the end and you wash your toothbrush. Because otherwise you're wasting Krishna's energy. But a devotee is respectful. They never waste anything because they understand that everything is belonging to Krishna. So they're respectful. So therefore they don't waste time. And they don't like to be idle. A devotee doesn't like to be idle. Srila Prabhupada said that sleep is like death to a devotee. Sleep is like death to a devotee. Put your hands up if you like to sleep. Just me. I remember when there you go. We've got some other people putting their hands up. I remember when I first joined the temple and we were sleeping in our sleeping bags in the ashram. And we used to call it the bliss bag. It wasn't the sleeping bag, it was the bliss bag. Because after the end of a day of devotional service, working hard, distributing books or whatever it was, working hard, somehow now in Krishna's service, you were so tired and you were so much looking forward to hitting the bliss bag. And then the alarm would go off at 3:30 in the morning. Oh no, can't be time to get up already. But the point is, for a devotee, yeah, they don't want to waste any time. They don't want to be idle. So therefore, even sleeping becomes devotional service, because they're thinking, you know, they pay their obeisances before they go to bed at night, and they say, you know, they pray to their spiritual master, they pray to Krishna, please now help me to rest my body so that I have full energy and full enthusiasm to serve you when I wake up tomorrow morning. And Prabhupada says, if you work hard to serve Krishna throughout the day, then at night time, you will dream of Krishna. So a devotee doesn't like to be idle. And then Prabhupada says they want service always, 24 hours a day without deviation. In fact, Srila Prabhupada, one time, he said that chanting Hare Krishna is so nice that you can chant it 25 hours a day. Yeah, in other words, you know, you feel like there's not enough hours in the day, right? I mean, that's an expression I use often. Oh, there's never enough hours in the day. But that's because I'm thinking, I've got so many things I need to do. I need to do these emails. I need to mow the grass. Or I need to, you know, watch this on television or Netflix. Or I need to go on Facebook, or, you know, whatever it is. But a devotee is thinking, there's not enough hours in the day to glorify Krishna. I need at least one extra hour, 25 hours. So I can chant more Hare Krishna. I can serve Krishna more. I can take more prasad. Yes. Without deviation, Prabhupada said. Now, deviations in devotional service, they can be very, very subtle. But if it's a slight deviation, as you go on in devotional service, you get further and further from the goal. Just like a plane. Do we have any pilots? Anthony, are you an airline pilot? If we have any airline pilots, then you know they set their coordinates to go to a particular destination. But if the plane is just 1 degree off, right, after 500 meters, you won't notice any difference. After a mile, not that much difference. After 100 miles, the plane is really quite some distance off. After 1,000 miles, the plane is in a completely different location, you know, miles away, maybe on a different continent, because of a slight deviation. So in Krishna consciousness, we don't want to be deviated from the straight path back home, back to Godhead, the Bhakti Marg. That's why we have to study the nectar of devotion, the science of Bhakti Yoga. We have to follow it strictly. Srila Prabhupada said that Maya, she comes in like a needle and out like a plow. You know, so in other words, when you make a hole in your clothes with a needle, you don't notice because it's just a tiny hole. But then if you come out with a plow, you rip apart your kurta. It's like, oh no, you know. So Maya's like that. She's very subtle. So we have to be careful not to deviate. Now, why are we speaking about time today? Why are we particularly focusing on time? Well, one excuse in Krishna consciousness for why we don't chant Hare Krishna, why I can't chant my 16 rounds a day, why I don't have time to go on Zoom on a Friday night for the Manchester Sangha, why I don't have time to offer food to the deities. You know, I just offer it in my head, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. There's not time, you know. I don't have time to read Bhagavad Gita. I have to go to work. Who's heard that excuse, or maybe who's used that excuse before? I don't have time. So Vaisheshika Prabhu, he says there is no such thing as no time, but only no taste. Because we certainly find time to do the things that we have a taste for, right? Whoever forgets to sleep? No. That's the first thing on my to-do list. Make sure you go to bed at night, right? Whoever forgets to eat? No, that's second thing on my to-do list. Probably first, actually. Make sure you get prasadam, right? No, so we find time to do the things that we enjoy doing, that we have a taste for doing. So it's not a question of no time, it's just no taste. I have no time, no taste for chanting Hare Krishna. I have no taste for associating with devotees. I have no taste for reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And the point is that right now, during this lockdown, of course, many people are already some people are working from home. Some people are starting to go back to work in a socially distanced situation. But for many of us, we have unlimited time. It's no such thing as no time. Right now, it's loads of time, but no taste. And the reason I got this realization was about a year ago, I broke my foot. I took up running again after 20 years. When I were a lad, I used to run competitively. I used to run cross country and track and like this. So I took up running again about 2 years ago, and I'm still running now. I enjoy it. But last year ago, about a year ago, I ran a race and I broke my foot. I got a stress fracture. So I had to be off work for 6 weeks. I was in the house, I was on crutches, and I had my foot in a moon boot, and I literally couldn't go out the house. I was just literally, housebound, right, for 6 weeks, right? And now I look back at that time that I had in those 6 weeks, and I lament. I think, oh, I just wasted my time, right? Because we have this excuse, there's no time. If I had time, I would chant Hare Krishna. If I had time, I would serve my deities. If I had time, I would do some reading. But then all of a sudden, you get presented lots of time, but you still don't chant Hare Krishna. You still don't worship the deities. You still don't read Bhagavad Gita. Why? Because I have no taste. So during those 6 weeks, I realized I could have done so much more if I actually had a taste. I could have chanted, 32 rounds a day, read Srimad Bhagavatam for 5 hours a day, learned 10 shlokas a day. I could have listened to so many classes. I could have done so much, but I didn't have a taste. And interestingly, at the time of death, people's biggest regret, they don't look back and think, oh, I wish. They don't look back and regret the things that they've done. People look back and regret the things that they didn't do. That's the biggest regret at the time of death. Oh, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. So right now, during this lockdown, when the world has changed, and even if we are working from home, we suddenly find ourselves with more time, right? Because, perhaps we can't go out to certain social gatherings in the way that we used to before. We're pretty much, things are opening up a bit now, but certainly we've had a lot more time on our hands. So when this eventually comes to an end, and it will, like they say, George Harrison said, all things must pass. This too shall pass. Krishna also says, Matra spashas tukuntiya, shitoshna sukadukada, agama paino nichas tamas titikshashravata. He says that happiness and distress, they come and go like winter and summer seasons. Everything in this world is temporary. It will come and it will go. So this pandemic will go at some point. Of course, something else will come and replace it, some other suffering. Adi daivika klesha, adi atmika klesha, adi bautika klesha. But the point is, it will go at some point. So we don't want to look back and say, oh, I wasted my time during lockdown. I could have done so much, right? We don't want to do that. We want to utilize this time to get stronger. Just like in the ancient times, during bygone days, the great sages of yore, during the period of Chaturmasya, which is the 4 months of the rainy season in India, the sages, they wouldn't go anywhere. Why? Because the monsoon, the rains were so heavy, you couldn't travel on the roads. They were like mud paths. It wasn't safe to travel. So they would sit in one place and they would just absorb themselves in hearing and chanting, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. But what it meant was that they would utilize those 4 months of the rainy season to become stronger. So when they came out of that period of Chaturmasya, they would be stronger, more spiritually advanced, more spiritually realized, ready to take on board whatever Maya would throw at them, like that. So this lockdown is like that. It's like a period of Chaturmasya, We can either utilize it to get stronger by hearing and chanting, by reading more, by going on. There's unlimited Zoom seminars right now, you know? We're spoiled for choice. Never so much have we had so much choice. So thank you for tuning in tonight. You could have been tuning in to, you know, Radhanath Swami or Janananda Goswami or someone else. You've tuned into little old me, so thank you. But we don't want to look back and say, you know, I just wasted my time. Like I looked back when I had my 6 weeks of broken foot. Oh, I just wasted my time because I had no taste. In fact, Narad Muni, he became a pure devotee during the period of Chaturmasya. Right? During the period of Chaturmasya, the sages came to stay at his house with his mother, the Bhaktivedantas, and Narad Muni was serving them nicely. And he was taking the remnants of their foodstuff. And because he had the correct moods, and because he did the correct things, they blessed him. They blessed him with a taste for transcendental knowledge. And he became the Narad Muni that we all know and love, who is traveling and preaching throughout the universe. He became a pure devotee in this period of Chaturmasya. So we can also become a pure devotee during this period of lockdown. Why not? Why not? I'm going to finish with this now because time is almost of the essence. Today we're speaking about time, and time flies when you're having fun. Time is gone. But the point is, one time Srila Prabhupada was one devotee in the early days of the movements called Nara Narayan Prabhu. And he was chanting downstairs in the temple room. And he was a young devotee, he'd only joined a couple of months, and he was thinking, can I become a pure devotee? Because he'd been a hippie and taken so many drugs and like that. So he thought, I'm going to go and ask Srila Prabhupada. So he went upstairs to Srila Prabhupada's room. He was Swamiji at the time, and he knocked on the door. Swamiji, Swamiji. And Prabhupada was chanting Hare Krishna. He was pacing up and down in his room. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, yes. And he said, Swamiji, can I become a pure devotee? And then he said that Prabhupada carried on chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And he got to the other side of the room and he spun around and came back pacing Hare Krishna. And he looked at him and he said, yes, why not? And then he carried on chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. And then he looked at him again in the eyes and he said, but it may take some time. But the point is, now we have unlimited time. So let us not look back and say, rather than there is not, you know, I have no time. I have no time. We should look back and so in other words, it shouldn't be there's no time. What is it? Now it's I've got time but no taste. And now we've got unlimited time and we can get unlimited taste if we utilize our time nicely, just like the first characteristic of one who has ecstatic love. Don't be idle. Utilize our time 24 hours a day. And I'll just finish with that. I just want to put that into context. We may not be at the stage where we can chant Hare Krishna 24 hours a day. We may not be Haridas Thakur, but at least once a day, we should make some time to sit down and hear and chant about Krishna, to read about Krishna. Let's make ourselves regulated and utilize as much time as we can while we have it. Okay, we're going to stop there. Srila Prabhupada ki, Nectar of Devotion ki, utilize time in Krishna consciousness ki, Nitai Guru Pramanande. So, Guru Nataraj Prabhu, I'm sorry, I've gone 2 minutes over the allotted time. I would usually ask if there's any reflections or any questions. A reflection means something that you've heard, which you want to reflect back to me. Something you've heard which struck a chord with you, something you liked, and you can reflect back. Do we have time, Guru Nataraj Prabhu, for reflections or questions?
Absolutely, absolutely, Prabhu. We have time. Don't worry.
Sure. Brilliant.
Devotees feel free to comment or ask any questions. Thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. Yes, and it's also very nice to see Hanuman Prabhu, Anthony Prabhu. All glories to you. Oh, many years, and all glories to Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu, because Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu is speaking, and I'm able to see you today.
Very good.
Any questions or any comments, please?
Anything you can remember, anything we said whatsoever. Like sometimes we come out of the class and we say, "Oh, that was a nice class," and then someone says, "Well, what did you like about it?" You know, we can't remember anything. So even if you can remember one thing that you remember from the class, just reflect it back, because when we share it with others, it helps us to remember. Guru Nataraj Prabhu.
So thank you, Prabhu. There were a number of points I've noted down, and one point that I take home is see good in others, rather than seeing bad in others. Try to introspect and try to see how I can improve. That's one thing. And also you nicely mentioned that how this Chaturmasya period was, generally the sages or saintly people, they use that time effectively to come out stronger, to use that time. So yeah, thank you for those points. Really struck me. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, you say about every most time we hear that we should be putting maximum time remembering Krishna.
Yes.
That's the symptom. So, I start with good intentions every morning, and then during the day, other things happen, or housework and other things. So your attention gets, okay, you remember to then do the prasad, or you do the evening prayer, or you do reading. But in between, other things are also necessity, and they need time too. Yeah, you have Krishna in back of your mind, or you can say her chant a little while. But other activities also take up quite your time. So I don't find it's possible to be thinking about Krishna all the time.
That's a very nice question. Thank you. Sorry, I don't know who's speaking that question. It's like a disembodied voice. I can hear the voice, but I can't see who's speaking.
Meenakshi Madhvi Devi Dasi.
Meenakshi Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Babuji.
So it's a very nice question. So yeah, how can we think of Krishna all the day when we have other things to do? You mentioned we have housework. Of course, to start with, Rome wasn't built in a day. We have to practice. Practice makes perfect. So that means that sometimes we don't, we get to the end of the day and we think, I didn't remember Krishna once today. But then we think, okay, if at first I don't succeed, try again. So Krishna, firstly, he's looking for the endeavor. He's not looking for the results. So that means that, we have to keep on practicing. But one point is that, you mentioned housework. So for instance, our house, like for instance, right here, we have our deities behind us. So we should be thinking the house belongs to them, belongs to their lordships. This is their house. So if I'm doing housework in the house, for instance, today, I had to wash some clothes, right? So that's not just my clothes, it's my wife's clothes. So if I'm in the correct consciousness, I see that she's a devotee of Krishna. She is the servant of the lords of the manor, if you like, the lords of the house. So therefore I'm serving the Lord's devotee by washing the clothes. Or if I have to mow the lawn, well, this is the Lord's house. So that's also his garden. So if I'm mowing the lawn, mowing the garden, weeding the garden, if we're in the right consciousness, then we're also thinking this is devotional service. If I'm dusting the house, again, this is like dusting the temple. We should see that our house is a temple. We should make our house like a temple. Not just that when I go to the temple, the Lord is there. So that's one thing. We can try and see how everything we're doing throughout the day is connected to Krishna. You know, we should try and connect everything to Krishna, even our work. Why? Because we're going to utilize the fruits of our work in, you know, in Krishna's service. Like right now, I'm working in a warehouse. Since the lockdown began, I wasn't able to continue with my normal work, which is distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. So I'm working in a warehouse. But when I'm working in the warehouse, I'm trying to work diligently. I'm trying to work hard. And even with devotion there and trying to do my work properly, because another thing is at work, they know I'm a Hare Krishna devotee. So I'm trying to set a good example also. People, they will say, yes, these Hare Krishnas, they work hard, and, you know, like this. So we should try and connect everything to Krishna. And one way we can do that is by, especially early in the morning, we build a firm foundation of Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting. So in the morning, first thing, especially during the Brahma Muhurta, if we can, but if we can't, whenever we can, before we do anything else, we should make some time for chanting on our beads. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Because from Shravanam Kirtanam comes Vishnu Smarana. From hearing and chanting comes remembrance of Krishna. And if we have that firm foundation in the day, then it is easier to remember Krishna throughout the day. But you're right, it is difficult sometimes, you know, and I'm preaching to myself always. Also, I'm not always able to remember Krishna, but it's a practice. It's a practice. But I do find that when I make time every day to be regulated with my reading, like if I say to myself, every day, I don't have so much time, but I'm going to try and read at least 15 minutes every day from Srila Prabhupada's books. I find that when I do that, actually, I find that throughout the day, I'm more able to remember Krishna. Is that okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, it's just the, you know, we like they say, keep Krishna in the center of all your activities.
Yes.
You should be in the background and Krishna in the center.
Yeah. Well, another thing that just comes to my mind, another nice thing to do is it's good to have friends in Krishna consciousness. Like right now, to be honest, the most important of the 5 different limbs of devotional service, which is the A, B, C, D, and E. A is for association. B is for Bhagavatam, hearing Bhagavatam. C, chanting Hare Krishna, chanting the holy names. D, deity worship. E is environment, or existing in a holy place, living in a holy place. So of the 5 most important limbs, association is the most important, because when we associate with other devotees who are enthusiastic, their enthusiasm rubs off on us. So I'll just, I remember when I was younger and I used to go out for a run with I had a friend who I used to go out running with. Now, if I'd made an arrangement to go out running with my friend, it was a lot easier to be motivated to go out. But if I was just running on my own, I'd think, oh, I can't be bothered. So Krishna consciousness is like that also. We can have a reading partner, you know, and every day at, you know, 7:30 in the evening, we can ring up a friend and we can read together over the phone for 15 minutes, or we can chant together. But you'll find that if you have a friend in Krishna consciousness, someone who you can share activities with, then it actually becomes very joyful. And then it's a lot easier to remember Krishna.
Because what I find is, you know, the mood when you go to holy dhams, that's the time you're truly absorbed all the time, because you don't have to think about cooking the food. Or
yeah,
you don't get tired. But when you're doing it at home, you know, you can get tired as well, you know.
Yeah, that's why Prabhupada says, sorry, 1 second, Gauranath, I was just going to say, that's why Prabhupada says that, actually, back to Vinod Thakur, he says that for one who observes holy days, like Ekadashi and Janmashtami, then they are the mothers of devotion. So yeah, when we go to the holy dham or on a special festival day where we can just absorb ourselves in service, we get a taste for that. Very important. Sorry, go to Gauranath Raj, Prabhu.
Thank you. So Prabhu, there is one question on YouTube. So I'll read it out. That James Prabhu is asking, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I was watching Janavi Harisan Kirtan Lost on YouTube, and while singing Govinda Jaya Jaya, I was close to crying. Is this a great sign? I'm feeling more love for Krishna. That's his question.
That's a very nice question, James. Thank you. So, yeah, I guess you're asking that question because I was talking about how sometimes, people may make a show of devotion, coming in front of the deities and crying, rolling around on the floor. But I would say that if we're genuinely, we're hearing some kirtan and it's bringing tears to our eyes, that's a genuine sign of emotion. That's a genuine sign of, like, for instance, I remember the very first time I saw the deities, I went up to Vallabha in Scotland, and I was a student at the time, and I was doing my best to practice Krishna consciousness, but, by all means, I wasn't following everything really strictly. But I remember the first time I saw the deities at the morning program, the curtain, actually, it wasn't for the Mangalarti, it was at Greet the Deities at 7 o'clock. The curtains opened, right? And the transcendental song came on, Govinda, Maripurashanta, Mahamajami. And I could smell the incense. And I saw the deities. And in my mind, I was thinking, wow, this is God. And I was like convinced. And I was like thinking, this is the first time I've seen God in maybe billions of lifetimes. And it struck me. I could smell the incense. I could hear this music. And I was seeing God before my eyes. And then I drank this Charanamrita. And literally, it brought tears to my eyes. Now, I can say also, James, and everyone listening, that's never happened again. that doesn't usually happen when I come before the deities, but that very first time, Krishna gave me some kind of like transcendental realization, some kind of transcendental emotion. So every now and again, we do get these emotions, we do get a glimpse of Krishna. Just like when a sailor is at sea, they haven't seen the land for many months sometimes, but every now and again they catch a glimpse of the land and they say, land ahoy! Like that. So the point is, they're not going to necessarily board their ship on the land, but they can see the land again, and they're still going to be at sea for another month, but it gives them some like enthusiasm that yes, there is land. I will see the land again someday. I just caught a glimpse of the land. So Krishna consciousness is like that. Sometimes, you were listening to that kirtan the other day, it brought tears to your eyes. I've had experiences like that. They don't come all the time, personally speaking, but every now and again, some kirtan, or some sweet ball, some mahaprasadam, or you hear some class, or some ecstatic emotion, then it's like, you get a glimpse of Krishna, Krishna, hoy! And then you may not see him again for another few months, but it's like, yes, I did catch a glimpse of Krishna. So I would say, yes, James, that's certainly a transcendental emotion, and Krishna sometimes is very merciful. But don't expect them to come all the time, because if they do come all the time, then we take them cheaply. Familiarity breeds contempt. But if we never get them, then we think, what's the point? This process of Krishna consciousness doesn't work. I've been chanting Hare Krishna for years. I've never felt any, transcendental bliss. It doesn't work. So we have to have the perfect balance of every now and again catching a glimpse of Krishna, and a lot of the time feeling separation. They're like two banks of a river. And then the river can flow very nicely towards the lotus feet of Krishna. But if there's no bank on this side, then the water overflows and becomes stagnant. And no bank on that side, then the water overflows there and becomes stagnant. You need two banks. That is the bank of feeling separation from Krishna and the bank of feeling connected to Krishna. Does that make sense? So anyway, thank you, James. That's a very nice question. And, it's wonderful that you're, experiencing great joy and bliss from listening to Janavi Harrison's kirtan. Keep up the good work. Hare Krishna. I hope that answers your question.
Great. Thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions or comments? Anthony, anyone, Prabhu? Any comments, any questions?
I was just thinking, it sounds a bit crazy, but when the salad gets stale, put some chat masala on it. So, like if Krishna consciousness gets a bit stale, keep reading more books, keep chanting more. You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fact. Yeah, it's like and sometimes it does become stale. Sometimes it does become a little bit dry. But like you're saying, you just have to keep on. Like Prabhupada said, if you're not feeling enthusiastic, just be enthusiastic anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so even if you don't feel like dancing, just dance anyway, and then you'll actually get, you know, you'll actually feel enthusiastic. And the best thing to do also is to associate with someone who does have a taste for chanting, who does have a taste for reading. And then their enthusiasm rubs off on you. Like myself, I listen to Vaisheshika Prabhu every day. And whenever I listen to him, because he's so enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness, I feel enthusiastic by being in his association.
Yeah,
so thanks, Anthony. That's a nice point.
It's always nice to listen to a class every day, at least, isn't it, Prabhuji?
Yeah, that's it. There's one book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. Do it anyway. So Krishna consciousness is a bit like that as well. Feel the fear, you know, and do it anyway. You know, I'm feeling fearful to surrender to Krishna, or I'm feeling no taste, but do it anyway, because it's pleasing to Krishna. When Krishna's pleased, then we will feel enthusiastic.
Very well, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thanks, Anthony Prabhu. Nice to see you.
Excellent. Looks like there are no more questions. So thank you so much, Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu.
Thank you.
For
that means, by the way, if there's no questions, that means everyone's convinced. That means that everyone is going to utilize their time fully, 24 hours a day without deviation. No, sorry, I was cutting you off.
No. Just wanted to say thank you so much for your time. It was very nice to hear from you. And His Grace Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu ki. Yeah.
Gaura back to Vrinda ki.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you. It's wonderful to see you all. Keep up the good work there in Manchester. I hear reports of the, you know, the activities that you're performing there. So you're all doing very nicely. So thank you. Keep up the good work, and we hope to see you on the other side of the lockdown.
We are also looking forward to seeing you at some point.
Yes, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.